hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and you're about to listen to a conversation I was having with Victoria Gallagher, who is a very well-renowned law of attraction hypnotherapist. She has 2 different communities on School, and we were talking about why it's so challenging for people that are passionate about hypnosis and hypnotherapy to actually make a decent living from it. And unfortunately, there are way more people qualified in hypnotherapy than there are actually people having livelihoods and a good, stable source of income from hypnotherapy. And I believe that is a tragedy because there is no shortage of people in the world that really need help. And unfortunately, I think those people that have spent years quite often studying hypnosis can get very, very frustrated with the fact that unless they have certain empowering belief systems and have certain knowledge about how to acquire clients and how to price what they do in the right way, it's very, very difficult to be anything more than a hobby. And I'm saying this as someone that when I started, hypnotherapy for me was a hobby that I did on Sunday mornings, and then it became a lucrative hobby, and now it's the main thing that I do. But that only happened, I think, because I had a background in business. So I had a lot of the business skills already. And also, I'd already had the experience of earning a 6-figure income before I was a hypnotherapist. So for me, it didn't feel alien to be earning that kind of money as a hypnotherapist. If you are a hypnotherapist, I would encourage you to not just listen to this conversation, but check out the links in the description to learn more about Victoria's school community. And also, I also offer mentorship, and the main mentorship that I offer is how people can build a business around their hypnosis skills with one-to-one mentoring, coaching, and strategies that involve things like having a podcast, YouTube channel, building funnels and things like that. So if that's of interest, check out those resources. But most of all, check out this conversation, because I think even if you get 1 or 2 things that are helpful, and by the way, not just if you're a hypnotherapist, but if you are a different form of therapist, if you are a coach, if you are in the healing or helping profession and you're not earning what you want to be earning right now, there's going to be something of value in this conversation. So find a nice, comfortable place, relax, and enjoy this conversation. Hi, it's Adam here, and welcome to today's episode of The Hypnotist. Only today, I'm not your hypnotist. We are very honored and privileged to welcome back guest hypnotist Victoria Gallagher. Welcome back.
Thank you. You know what? It's actually my honor and privilege to be able to come back. That's quite something to be able to be invited back a second time. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
And just as a refresher to the audience, if you didn't catch Victoria's last time she was on the show, Victoria is very well known for law of attraction and manifestation, and had an amazing session based on attracting more wealth and abundance in your life. So I'm going to put the link to that other episode actually in the show notes. So if you want to check that one out, have a look. But for those people that don't know you yet or want a refresher of last time, give us a bit of background about what you're known for and how you started in this world of hypnosis.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, let's see, I started out about 25 years ago. I was in the financial services industry, and I found myself kind of burnt out on that and was kind of looking for a change. I didn't know exactly what that was going to look like. Took some personal development courses and decided actually at the time that I wanted to make these hypnotic recordings. I didn't know that they were going to be hypnotic. I just thought they were going to be like meditations and visualizations. And so I was like, how do I get some kind of credentials? And all of a sudden I stumbled upon hypnotherapy certification school. I became certified, and then I just decided, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and open up an office. I do that. And as soon as I do that, my branch manager, where I was stockbroker found out what I was doing, and he gave me an ultimatum, and I chose my passion. And it was, a little bit of a rocky road for the first year and a half of that, because I literally was coming in with no income. But I luckily had a mindset that, it definitely needed a little help at that time, because I was brand new on the scene as a hypnotherapist, really just kind of fresh, wet behind the ears as far as learning how to reprogram my own mind. And, that's one of the things too, is like people, they start learning these tools, they start learning law of attraction and hypnosis, it's something that takes a while before it really gets integrated into your being and who you are. So, a lot of times people will like, oh, it's been a couple weeks and nothing's happened and I haven't changed my life yet. Well, it takes a little while to really integrate these things. So fast forward, now it's been 25 years. I have become a number one best-selling author of several books, namely Practical Law of Attraction is my signature book. Also, as the last time I was on here, I was just releasing my app, and that was the Believe app. And so thank you to your audience, because so many of you actually went ahead and downloaded that app and subscribed to it. So I really appreciate that. And, lately it's all been about community, and really helping my community to, just get more access to me, and, be able to, work on very specific financial challenges and money blocks, and really achieving success in their careers. So in a
Mm.
nutshell, that's kind of the
Yeah. And you mentioned there 25 years. I mean, uh, hypnotherapy, you're going to see certain things that are constant, certain issues, certain kind of things that kind of come up again and again. What would you say is the biggest change that you've seen from your perspective over that quarter of a century?
a quarter of a century. I didn't really put it into that exact perspective. But I would say, no, well, number one, more people are just aware of the fact that it even is a thing. And still, I still think we're in its early infancy. There's still people that I come across all the time that still don't know what hypnosis is, or if they've heard of hypnosis, of course, they just automatically think of stage hypnosis and, swinging watches and clucking like chickens and things like that. So it's still relatively new, but I would say the only difference really is that we know a lot more about it. We know a lot more about the way the mind works, and more people. I would say there's definitely the intelligence, the awareness of hypnosis is definitely increased. People are aware that these technologies, these modalities exist.
I agree that the misconceptions are still there, because when I flew into Vegas last July for HypnoThoughts, the guy at Border Control was saying, "Oh, what are you here for?" And I'm saying hypnosis conference, and all of those stereotypes come up, like, "Oh, can you make people do this?" And all the whole Elvis and chicken kind of things that link to stage hypnosis. They're still there, I think, in a lot of people. But that just shows how much more work there is to do to educate and kind of inspire, and have people understanding the reality of hypnotherapy rather than the cliches and the Hollywood tropes that are still there.
It
What would
actually
you?
excites me when, when people don't know what it is, or like I'm like, oh my God, we're still like, there's still so many more people out there to help and to get on board with this. So it's actually really, really exciting. I'm sorry, I almost cut you. I think
No,
you
no,
were.
not a problem. Because one of the things is that I've seen is that there is a strange dynamic in the sense that when I studied hypnotherapy, there were lots of people. I think there's lots of people that are passionate about helping people. There's lots of people that are fascinated and curious about this fusion of psychology, psychotherapy, neuroplasticity, and hypnosis, and clinical hypnosis specifically. But there was a really fascinating thing that in the very last class of this kind of 3-year course that I did on hypnotherapy, the teachers at the end, they said, right, here's the reality check. Only 3% of you that graduate this class will be making any kind of money from hypnotherapy in a year's time. And I remember thinking, one, for me, that was kind of like a red rag to a bull. It's kind of like, right, I want to be that 3%. But it also seemed like disingenuous and a little bit unethical, because if they knew that right at the very end of people studying, that it's so difficult for people to make a viable income and enough to stay in the industry, didn't they have a duty to actually teach people not just how to do hypnotherapy, but how to acquire clients and how to actually monetize the very skills? And they didn't. And I remember having conversations in the bar afterwards. We all kind of went after the end of the course, and they're like, well, they felt disheartened and kind of hopeless. Like they were all excited about working with clients, and then had this idea that they wouldn't be able to actually kind of make a living from it. And I'm just curious, from your perspective, what do you think it is that means that such a small amount of people that are very capable hypnotherapists actually thrive financially in the world of hypnotherapy if they're good? Because normally in lots of professions, like if you're competent, like in stockbroking, in finance, the income is there. But in hypnotherapy, it isn't. There's very talented people that don't have anywhere near enough clients.
It's really interesting because right when you said only 3% of you are going to make money, I mean, right there, that's a suggestion. I mean, to me, that's like kind of almost like an irresponsible thing to suggest to your student right after they've just gone through and gotten these credentials. And then now they're like out there thinking, okay, well, I guess, and most people don't consider themselves in that top 3%. So I think that it is a perception. I would say that it depends on who you're listening to. For me, I think I was really fortunate to not be a member of any of the associations that were going around telling people, or not necessarily that the associations were telling people, but the members themselves would discuss how difficult it is to make money. And so when it's who you listen to, it's who you're associating yourself with. And most people just are infecting each other with this negative belief, this negative programming. There's nothing about hypnotherapy in and of itself that should cause a person to not be able to make just as much money as a coach, as much money as a doctor, as much money as an accountant. It's a profession. It's a legitimate profession, just like any other thing. So I just believe that it's just another one of those misconceptions. And
Yeah.
I was fortunate to not have that misconception, going into it. I was in the habit, because I was in the financial industry, I was in the habit of asking people for large amounts of money. I mean, I literally was dealing with people who had millions of dollars. So I knew that people had money. I knew people would pay to have their problems solved. And my clients, the clients that I have right now that come to me, I mean, they have clients that have, because a lot of the clients that I deal with are hypnotherapists, and they have clients that pay them thousands of dollars a month to work with them because they see the value in their investing in their mind and their um, just their mindset, which I think is the number one thing. I just think the number one thing you can invest in is your own mind, your own personal growth, because what else, this like the thing that's running the whole show. It's going to decide whether you're healthy or not. It's going to decide whether you make enough money or not. It's going to decide the kind of relationships you have. It is literally the thing that is going to cause you to have a good life or not. And so I just wonder how much a lot of hypnotherapists that get in. Oh, that was the other thing too, is I always thought, like, I always just felt like I need to walk my talk. If hypnotherapy is true, then I should be able to make the amount of money that I want. And so I always felt like I need to be a walking advertisement in every way, shape, or form. I need to be in good shape. I need to have good relationships. I need to have um, my mind, geared toward, financial freedom. I need to be I need to embody what I'm helping other people to do. So
Mm.
I don't know, does that make sense?
It does, and I'm glad you said that, because I think congruency is, it's like that Gandhi quote, be the change you want to see in the world. And if hypnotherapists can't make changes to their belief systems, their mindset, their habits, who can? And unfortunately, do you remember the movie from I think it was the 80s, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks? Was it like a Disney film?
I think so. I don't remember the content, but I remember the name of it.
Yeah. So in there, there's the Angela Lansbury character, who is this kind of a witch. She's learning magic, and she tracks down the author of the book, and he doesn't believe in anything that he's done. He's just written it, but she has got the belief of doing it, and therefore she can do magic, and he can't. And unfortunately, I do think that there are trainers of hypnotherapists that don't really believe in what they're doing. They just kind of see it as kind of like, okay, right, learn this and learn that. And every now and then you find people that really, their belief systems align with what they do. And they're the ones that tend to have the clients, have the enthusiasm, have the passion for it, for that very reason. Because if you have this skill which enables you to identify issues, solve issues, harness the power of neuroplasticity to make changes, then there's absolutely no reason why you can't earn more, tap into highly resourceful states, solve problems quickly. And I'm just always fascinated of the incongruences where you see people with all the qualifications and then not quite doing that. The other thing that I found fascinating with that whole kind of 3% thing, and I was like you, I kind of felt like that's such a disempowering suggestion. You've got people in a highly receptive state and you give them that suggestion right at the end. That's like, a damp squib on their enthusiasm. But since then, I would probably say that number checks out. Like, of the people that I actually kind of studied with, very, very few are actually continuing to do it. And I think part of that is that one of the belief systems, I think, for a lot of hypnotherapists is that it almost becomes this kind of learning junkie system where they want to learn a new technique, learn a new protocol, learn a new thing. And they're learning about the therapy, but not necessarily about client acquisition, not about business models, not about marketing. And everyone knows that a McDonald's burger isn't the best quality burger. And I think some hypnotherapists are trying to be better therapists without also learning how to be better with business and monetization. And your background in finance, I think, helped you in the same way that my background in owning a PR agency helped me. We had a different lens to kind of go through. And I think one of the fascinating kind of things is the willingness to get good by seeing more clients, because I think a very empowering belief that I had when I started in hypnotherapy, like you, wet behind the ears, enthusiastic but lacking experience, is that you don't learn to swim by reading a book. You have to jump in the pool. So my belief system was, the better I get at acquiring clients, the more clients I see, the more clients I see, the more experience I get, the more distinctions I learn, and the more belief I have in my own abilities, and therefore the more successful I become. And I think a lot of people never see enough clients to really get that flywheel in motion. It never quite takes off, if that makes any sense.
It absolutely does. And I like what you said, that, you need actually to have, I mean, most of the experience that I have, and I have just kind of an eclectic background, I mean, between my hypnotherapy, but then like just all the various different books and, the other kinds of trainings that I have done, in personal growth and metaphysics and all of that. Those were just things I did for pleasure. but they really helped me to feel like, okay, I'm definitely qualified. And I think that a lot of people, and because I did actually get to try my hand at a little bit of coaching through the personal development seminars that I was involved in, we would actually get to, um, play the role of a coach sometimes. And so I kind of got a little bit of that sense of like, wow, like over this 90-day period of time, look at the transformation that I have been able to effectuate in this person. So I really felt pretty confident in my skills coming into this. Plus, being a stockbroker, I could tell you the last thing that my clients really wanted to talk about was their money. And they would always come in and talk about some other kind of problem. And so I was already helping people to solve a lot of their problems. But, you know, I think a lot of people, they go in to this and like they literally are just lifelong learners, which is great. I love learning, but they put another certification and another certification and another certification ahead of just the experience. And just going to tell you, you can't get good at doing hypnotherapy by just learning at, like you say, just learning and getting and acquiring certifications. You've got to, at some point, trust yourself and be willing to jump in and be willing to work with people so that you can acquire the real world skills. The real world skills, there's no replacement for that. And you learn how people think, you learn what they are actually dealing with, rather than, and it's unique for everyone, but you pick up on certain patterns. The way that I've picked up on, as I've specialized in helping people with various different money blocks. And this right here, I mean, this whole conversation, at the end of the day, what we're talking about are people's money blocks. All of this, like all of the need to go and get more certifications, the thought process that no, you can't earn enough money in hypnotherapy. I'm here to tell you, yes, you can, and there's enough to go around. And that was one of the things I also learned early on, just being somebody who specializes in metaphysics, law of attraction. I just always thought about this concept of abundance. I think a lot of people come from this idea of like, okay, well, there's so many hypnotists out there, there's not enough business to go around. And so there is that block that people have, that like the more hypnotists there are, the less there is for me. But I mean, we just talked about the fact that still so few people even know what hypnosis is yet, or they have misconceptions. So if that's still going on, then what that means is there is a plethora of people out there that could use their service, and there's probably still a need for thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of more hypnotherapists before we ever reach any kind of point of saturation.
Oh, yeah.
And
We're not anywhere close to saturation. And a great thought experiment is this idea that if you stopped 100 people in a busy street, in a city center, and each one of them you said, do you have any traumatic memories? Do you have any habits that you want to break? Do you have issues sleeping? Do you have any things that trigger anxiety? Do you have any phobias? Do you have any things you'd like to do but don't feel you have the resources to do? Of those 100 people that you stop, 100 of them have something that they're dealing with that a hypnotherapist can help with. That is a huge market. And I think there is a scarcity mentality. There is this idea that there isn't enough clients to go around. But I think it's because there is a thought of how many people actually out there right now are looking for a hypnotherapist and have actually specified the specific problem. I would say most people on anti-anxiety medication would be receptive to a tool that deals with the cause of the anxiety rather than symptom management. So we need to be looking at the pharmaceutical industry. We need to be looking at what people use to distract themselves from uncomfortable emotions, like how many people are on social media or binge watching Netflix to deal with their emotions. Like, the market couldn't be bigger, but there's this idea of, well, there's not enough to go around. And I think that contributes to sometimes the sniping and the kind of the ego bashing that you see in these kind of groups, because there's more of an interest of this kind of element of trying to prove that you're a more knowledgeable hypnotist rather than actually helping people through hypnotherapy. And that's odd to me, because ego strengthening is one of the things we learn as hypnotherapists. Why do you need to put other people down to make yourself feel better? Why not get your ego from helping people? And that might be, as you've done through apps or one-to-one sessions, or me through my podcast. There's so many ways in which we're able to help people, but there is this odd cognitive dissonance that you actually see in the kind of hypnotherapy kind of community sometimes, which it's the opposite of congruency, it's incongruency, which also means there's a huge opportunity for hypnotherapists that know about hypnotherapy to dramatically increase their income, which would be directly proportionate to their impact on people in the world. So it's an amazing opportunity. What would your advice be, or your message be, to those people that have got qualifications in hypnotherapy, hypnosis, and kind of that kind of talk-based therapy or therapeutic modalities, and are not currently making the kind of income that they would want from that?
Wow. Yeah. So such a rich question. So there's so many things that I can unpack about that. So number one, it really starts with getting crystal clear on the fact that I want to make a living at this. I think a lot of people, they just, they're kind of dancing around that. They maybe like more people than I ever realized actually have a full-time job, and hypnotherapy is something that they kind of do on the side. It's their side gig. And so they haven't really made a decision that this is something that I want to do. And part of the reason I think why they haven't made that decision is because they just automatically believe that it's not something, they don't get to do what they love and make money. And so I always came from this idea that do what you love and the money will follow. So that was, for me, that was the thought process that I initially assumed. The other thing that I think is really important is, when you look at like you look at there are a number of hypnotherapists out there, and like you said, people aren't necessarily even aware that they're looking for a hypnotherapist. So I would say you need to get really good at figuring out who it is out there that you want to help. There's a segment of people out there that are dealing with some kind of a problem that maybe you were dealing with at some time, and through hypnotherapy, you have been able to eradicate that. You've been able to deal with that. So to me, it's a simple matter of finding other people that are exactly like where you were, and being able to, like, you have something, you're further along in that than they were, and you're able to just because, and you don't have to be perfect, you don't have to be the only expert or the best expert in your field. You just need to be further along in that, and be able to help them go from where they were to where you are now. So that is one thing. I think it's really important to like differentiate yourself from all the other hypnotherapists. I mean, look at me for as an example. I mean, I a long time 10 years ago, I decided, that I am the law of attraction hypnotist. Now, that for whatever reason didn't go over well with a lot of the hypnotists in my community. Like a lot of hypnotists in the community, they're like, "Oh, that is just like so what is the word?
Woo
Just
woo. I think a lot of
BS,
people
woo
kind of,
woo, BS,
yeah.
They just didn't buy into it. And to me personally, I'm thinking, okay, there's either they don't understand what law of attraction actually is. So their perception of it is different from the reality. So I can see how when you think it's this and you think it's just wishing and hoping and, hoping the universe is just going to come and bestow you with the things you've been dreaming about. If you think of it like in those terms, then yeah, it's not, but so I had to, so it was actually an opportunity for me, because when I saw that, I'm like, oh, well, if I can just get hypnotherapists to understand, or anybody else to understand, that it's not like that at all, that really all it is just reprogramming your subconscious mind with the thing that you want, because whatever you have in your reality, it's just matching what you have in your subconscious mind. If you want to make more money, but you have in your subconscious mind all of the default programming that you grew up with, up until you were 6, 7 years old, when all the suggestions, they just went in to tell you essentially that money is the root of all evils, money doesn't grow on trees, you have to work hard and you have to struggle to make money, you can't make money doing what you want, go get a real job, like all of you're never going to amount to anything, like all of those things are still sitting in people's brains, and they are running literally running their businesses, running their bank accounts. Our bank accounts are being run by these 7-year-olds that got stuck at this level and don't know anything else. And so we have to be able to break that pattern. We have to be able to break that those ideas, these old, outdated ideas, in order to be able to do and make what you want. I mean, I think it's a shame for people to not be able to do what they want and make good money at it. And so that's why I have, just really just wanted to help people to do that. And, here's the thing. I mean, it's not always like up, up, up. Just because I do what I do and I've helped people to break through their own financial. I don't want to sit on my high horse here and say I've never since in the 25 years since I've been a hypnotherapist, I've never had financial worries or fears or limiting beliefs or doubts or resistance or just overall, problems to deal with. Like, I think that once you deal with your own stuff, you deal with a problem, new ones, you have new ones that take their place. And, if I wasn't so motivated to succeed, if I wasn't really trying to get to a certain place in my life, then I would never have the problems that I do right now. So I think, you solve a problem, new ones appear. And so we're always a work in progress, as
Yeah,
long as
I
we're
think that's a
alive.
very it's a very like open way of thinking, because I think sometimes there is this kind of connotation that if you're helping other people, that you have to be flawless and perfect, and that's not the reality of humans. We've always got stuff that we're working on. When I've gone to, and like you, I go to lots of conferences, and one of the things that I've overheard, which gives me an insight into perhaps a limiting belief system about hypnotherapists, I've literally heard people say, it's a really fulfilling thing to do. It's just a shame that there's no money to be made. And I remember thinking, well, I'm making money, but again, I'm also aware that when someone has a belief system, if I was to say, I'm making 6 figures in hypnosis, it would either be not believed or given a narrative that makes me the exception to the rule, rather than it being possible for everyone. So, but you've got a popular podcast, that's how you do it. Whereas I think I would still be making that money if I didn't have a popular podcast and had something else, because my belief system is that, like you, that there's a huge amount of abundance. I think there's another connotation as well that I've seen, which is somehow if you really work on the business side, so the kind of stuff that Jason Linett talks about, like funnels and kind of the marketing side, I think for a lot of hypnotherapists, they see that as a bit of a a dirty kind of icky kind of side of the business that actually, if it's almost like has connotations of greed or manipulation rather than my belief system, which is the better you market yourself, the more able you are to facilitate help for those people that need it. And I'm just curious, what's the key blocks or belief systems? I think one of them relates to kind of worthiness or kind of ability, but what's the kind of the insidious ones that might be there inside the subconscious of therapists that really are getting in the way of them making a decent living from this?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. One of them is the worthiness, but the other, like you said, with regard to being visible, putting yourself out there. There's a lot of responsibility that you take on when you decide that you're going to put yourself out there and and become more visible. I think there's just the old overall that whole connotation that sales is sleazy. And if there's one thing that I could, and okay, so sales is sleazy, and the other thing that comes up so much is the imposter syndrome. So the
Mm.
imposter syndrome basically looks like, I don't have my life completely working exactly the way that I want it. So I don't feel like qualified to help somebody else. And I think at the end of the day, so much of it really has to do, it's the quality, it's the feeling not qualified, it's a feeling of not worthy. Um, it's the feeling of like, just the confidence to put yourself out there, like somebody's gonna reject you, that fear of rejection. And the thing is that when it's just kind of an interesting thing, because when you're not putting yourself out there and you're not asking for what you want, you're not asking people to do business with you, you're not asking for that sale, you are getting rejected. You're getting rejected by the person who actually makes the most the most important person in your whole sphere, and that's you. You're rejecting yourself before you even allow anybody to reject you. Um, so it's that worthiness, it's the lack of belief that they can do this. Um, and another part of it is just like you said, they see something like, oh, these business systems, it's so confusing. I don't even know how to do that. So they'll just allow themselves to just think that, that's not for me. And that's not who I am. I'm not like that. I'm not a salesperson. Well, I will tell you, and there was a book that I recently read by Grant Cardone, and it's called Sell or Be Sold. And at the end of the day, so he talks about in there that we're always selling. We just don't realize. Like you're selling yourself on the idea that sales is sleazy. Like you've actually sold yourself on that. And but every single interaction that you have, like I'm selling you right now on what I believe is the number one thing that's holding hypnotists back from making their whatever 10K months or and beyond. And the number one thing I believe is these limiting beliefs, the subconscious blocks, the blocks that say I'm not good enough, I don't have, I'm not intelligent enough, I don't have what it takes, I'm not salesy, I don't want to put myself out there, I don't have the confidence, people like me don't make this kind of money, we didn't grow up making this kind of money. I I don't even believe it's possible, for people to make that money. You've got to be special. You've got to be in the 1% in order to make that kind of money. Like all of these, I mean, it's not just one. I mean, I could just like literally just, you know, list them out over this entire show. Um, where was I going with that? I got a little excited. Everything is a sale. At the end of the day, everything is a sale. And the person that you need to sell the most is yourself. But you're selling, if you have kids, you're selling your kids every day on, you got to get up, you got to make your bed, you got to take out the trash, you got to do your chores. You're selling your boss, or, that wherever you're selling somebody on getting that job. If you have a job, you're selling your clients, you're selling your spouse to, do whatever it is that you want them to do. I mean, the, I learned from this book, this is the single most important skill that you can ever acquire. And yet, people just get stuck on thinking that they don't have what it takes to sell, but they've just got it backwards, because you are literally selling yourself on that idea already. So all you
Mm.
have to do is just sell yourself on another idea. Selling is hypnosis too. I mean, as you
It,
know,
it, it totally is. And I think there's a connotation that sales is manipulation rather than influence, which I think is a much better frame.
Mhm.
And my first career was selling radio advertising. And the thing that helped me, I read lots of books on sales, but there was a book that Richard Bandler and John Laval wrote called Persuasion Engineering. And it was all these NLP principles designed to actually kind of sell. And it was like, oh, I get to like get good at kind of communication and kind of elicitation and influence and get paid to do it. And what I found is that when I became a therapist, my background in sales helped me sell the client on a new belief system and how that new belief system was more empowering for them than the previous belief system that they had. And you're right, sales does overlap massively with the actual therapy that you do with the client. So I think it's great for any therapists that aren't making the money to kind of change a belief system about what selling is and why it's useful, because they're going to make more money. You've created a community on School specifically to help hypnotherapists increase their income. What are some of the frameworks or structures that you've created to help hypnotherapists do that?
Yeah, and it's actually beyond hypnotherapists. So there's actually many different types of people. I have bookkeepers, I have authors, I have artists. So anybody that kind of falls into maybe like an entrepreneur, spiritual entrepreneur category. It's a really intensive course, I won't lie, to really develop the identity of somebody who earns $10,000 a month. And we start off over the first week, even, is just identity activation. So one of the things that I do in that very, very first week is I just get them right over the whole idea that it's hard to make this kind of money, or that it's impossible to make this kind of money. And I literally have them do a little bit of research. I mean, so this is not just the subconscious, most of it's subconscious, but that first week there is a little bit of math. I won't lie. There is a little bit of math, because I want people to, I'm setting them up in that very, very first week to just know that it's possible and know how it works. So we do a little identity activation. We get them aligned with that person that makes, the 10K months. We take the old version of you, and we turn that old version into the new version of you. We do a blueprint activation. So you literally describe this person that you become, and just the whole life that you lead, and what your days are like. So we do our 10K blueprint activation. Then we work on the thinking, because so many thoughts are going to come through that, that are going to try to sabotage. And so we literally go through and just eradicate all of the thoughts that are working in opposition. We do belief installation, we do vibration, high vibration business, we do emotional money detox. This is probably one of the most powerful weeks. You do have to get to week 6 to get to that, but it is one of the most powerful sessions, because so many people are carrying residual emotions that are literally blocking their ability from attracting more money. Um, I have been there myself. I was not too long ago dealing with some serious frustration, serious resentment, resentment. And resentment does so much damage to your ability to attract the things into your life that you want. So we clear that. We do a whole forgiveness week on that. And people come out of that just clear. Focus. We work on every single thing. One of the things that came up after the focus week became the confidence week. The confidence week was just about asking for what you want. There's so much resistance to just putting yourself out there to ask for what you want. That, again, because people are embarrassed. They're, they still feel like the imposter. They aren't really clear on what to ask for. This is another thing that we just, we help with. We help people to raise their prices because that's another thing. I mean, I literally had people, I don't know what you charge, but I mean, I literally had people in my program charging less than $100 per session. And it's like, how, you're just not going to be able to make a living doing that. And why should you charge any less than, I mean, unless you're just very, very first, just trying to, get a first few little testimonial clients. But why should you charge any less than what, if you've been doing this for a few years, than what somebody else is charging? There's literally no reason. And so we get people to feel more confident about what it is that they do and what they can ask for. We work on nervous system regulation. This is something that, people, once you start to get into those higher levels of making more money or spending more money or anything like that, your nervous system has to adapt to that new level. Otherwise, it's like this dramatic change can literally sabotage everything that you've been doing because of the fact that, that change is like sends a shock through your whole system. And so a lot of people just cannot, they don't have the capacity to earn more. So we have to do the nervous system regulation. So yeah, and where did the ideas come from? Where do ideas come from for how to, how to make more money? We teach people how to get in touch with their intuition, and we teach people how to, um, you know, this is the like kind of where the woo part comes. I've been hesitant on saying it, but we teach people how to access what's called the super conscious level of mind. And the super conscious is just where, it comes through your subconscious and you connect to sort of like what's out there. And it's like, where do these ideas come from? They come from other people's thinking. I do believe we're all connected. At the end of the day, we're all connected. All of our thoughts are connected. So it's not just this one guy, Elon Musk, who has all the great ideas. You can literally tap into his brain and get the same kind of ideas to come to you. So I teach people how to connect to that energy and how to do that. How to detach. That's the other thing too. So much of this is about like letting go of the hows and the whens and all of that. So it's a lot of subconscious, just constant reprogramming. And that's, and through this process, it's really been pretty transformational for people. I mean, I launched the 10K challenge in December 1st. I launched it. we're March 10th. We're just about halfway through this program, and it's evergreen. So we have literally people starting every week. They absorb the same content that I created 15 weeks ago. They're also welcome to attend the live events that we do while I'm training on the future weeks that they would be having access to. But in that time, it has surprised even me. We've literally had people go from Anna was making $2,000 a month in the month of when she filled out her 10K paperwork, she was making $2,000 a month. And in December, she had her first $8,000 month. January, she did 10,000. February, she did 10,000. Why was that? It was just because we rearranged her thinking. We rearranged, gave her the math to figure out like how to actually make this happen. It's just math. It's like if you want to lose
I think it's
weight.
math, but I think it's also being around other people that are also doing it and in that state of mind. This might sound like a weird anecdote, but I think it taps into what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
I've only scored more than 200 in bowling once, and it was when I was visiting my family in Florida, and we went to a bowling alley on some like Sleepy Tuesday, and it's filled with pensioners, and these pensioners were amazing at bowling, and they're getting strike after strike, and I'm just surrounded by people much older than me getting all these strikes, and then it was just like magic. I was just getting strike after strike, and I've only ever done that, and I think it's because there was irrefutable evidence that it was possible. And I was thinking of other people that are doing it. Why can't I? And I've never been able to quite recapture that, but it was kind of like weird for me that why could I do it then? And I think it was because of there was so much belief in that room at that time that, okay, I'm going to get a strike on the next thing. And it just happened that way. And it was a strange thing. And I love what you're saying about resentment, because when I was a new therapist and I was trying to figure out what do I price my sessions at, I reverse engineered it. And rather than saying, what can I get away with, or what will people be willing to pay, I said, what would I need to price it at so I have absolutely zero resentment from allocating my time? I'm not missing spending time with my kids. I'm not missing time doing anything else. I don't care that I missed that workout that day. I would want to be doing that. And when you price it in accordance to that, it means that whenever you get a client, the emotion that comes up isn't, oh, I'd rather be doing this. It's kind of like, no, I get to do this. And there's a whole different kind of energy attached. So everything you say there, I'm like nodding my head thinking like this is absolute gold for people that want to increase their income. Give us the website that if people want to kind of learn more about the school and the courses that you've created, where they can go to find out more. And I'll make sure there's a link to this in the show notes as well.
Yeah, so we created a special link for this particular podcast. And so that link is hypnotist10k.com. And that'll direct you right to the About page where you can literally just get into this. So I have multiple levels of my community. You can literally start the whole process for just $9. It is, we start off with a 7-day faster manifestation challenge. And that just 7 days, 7 blocks. We go through, each of the most common blocks. And I'm telling you, I mean, when people go through like the first day even, they're like, wow, I had no idea how unclear I was. And, a lot of people like they think they're clear, but this gives them a whole, and it gives them permission to want what they want. That's the main thing. Most people I think that they're cheating themselves out of having what they really, really want, because there's just part of them that just hasn't bought into the idea that they can really have what they want. And so in that very first day, I give people permission just to want what they want. So they start there. And then they can move up to, over some time, they can move up to the $10,000 months challenge. And like you said, it's the community that when you see, we literally have a section called Money Wins, and we have other kinds of wins too. We have the reflections, and these are, just other kind of lifestyle wins, things just feeling better, feeling happier, having better relationships with your kids, all the other things. So we have a specific section for when people post the money wins. And when they see that, and there's like, I don't know, I mean, there's several of them every day that come, oh, I just got another client, $4,100 client, $2,000 client, they're seeing that, and they're like, well, I guess if she can do it, then I can do it. And so it makes it much, much more believable. And it's like just one other thing that I'll equate that to is like when Richard Bannister, you are familiar with the Richard Bannister story.
Just 4 Minute Mile.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar to that, where essentially, there was a time before the 4 Minute Mile where nobody believed you could do it. And this guy just set out to do it. And he did the 4 Minute Mile, Richard Bannister. And once he did that, I mean, he was at full capacity. Like he literally passed out. I think he almost died. I don't think he died, but he passed out, had to get taken to the emergency room, all of that, because it was just, no one did this. And, that's how powerful the mind is, that it can literally limit you to the point where something that today we do, many, many people do this today, and they don't die. They don't almost die. They don't end up going to the emergency room. So after he did the 4 Minute Mile, I mean, like within the next year, even high schoolers were doing this. It was just a normal thing that many people started doing. And that's how we are doing the money thing in our community. We're normalizing the conversation about money. We're normalizing that it's okay to earn this much money, and that it's possible to earn this much money, and you get to see people actually doing it. And there's a whole path and a system that allows you to do it too. All you have to do is just follow the path, and you can get there as well.
Perfect. Victoria, this has been an amazing conversation. Unfortunately, we don't have time to hear the guided experience for the 10K months hypnosis. So you're going to have to come back another time, and we'll do that. But give us that link, the URL again, just for anyone listening and it may be in hypnotherapy, but maybe you just want to kind of manifest or attract a higher income in a different kind of career. Give us that website address again.
Yeah. So it's Hypnotist, just like your podcast, Hypnotist10k.com.
Excellent. And click in the show notes, because you're going to have that link, the link to Victoria's previous episode that she was on the show. And there'll be a few resources as well that I'm going to have on there as well. Victoria, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I'm already thinking bigger just from this conversation. I need to double my income directly from this conversation. So thank you so much.
Amazing.
Any final words that you wanted to leave us with?
I just always like to end on, if you can believe, if you can have an idea that you are meant for more, if there's even the smallest little idea in your mind that you're meant for more, then, just allow yourself to, do the work that is going to help you to believe in that. Because once you believe that that is possible, then anything is possible. And so I just encourage all of you to, let yourself dream big, and let yourself believe in it, and let yourself live the life that was meant for you.
What a lovely way to end the show. So Victoria, thank you so much again. And to all of you listening, take care, and we'll see you very, very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. If you've enjoyed this episode or got some value from it, please give it a 5-star rating and review. And maybe you know someone that would also benefit from this particular episode, in which case share the episode with them so they can also get the benefit too. And if you would like to listen to this episode where it's just the hypnosis, so no intro, no outro, no explanation, just the hypnosis and completely ad-free, there will be a link in the description where you can subscribe at a very low cost and only get access to the hypnosis. So if that's of interest, please check that out. Thank you again for being a regular listener of The Hypnotist, and I'll see you again soon for more.